The fuck? Oh wow. Oh wow. Why is it not letting me turn my camera off on the YouTube live?
I think in order to be live on YouTube and turn your camera off, it would have to be like a panel of people. I don't think you could do it if it's just you by yourself.
Oh. Okay. Well, YouTube's gonna be looking at the ceiling because I don't feel like being on camera right now. But close enough. Anyways, YouTube, welcome back to my channel, YouTube. If y'all are new here, my name is Angel. If y'all are not new, then of course, welcome back. As y'all can see by the title of today's video, we are trying something new. I'm going to be streaming here with you guys, but I'm also going to be streaming on Bigo, right? If y'all don't have Bigo or don't know what it is, please go to your app store, type in BIGO, download the app, and type in, all right, angel dot the dot Uchiha, all right, and follow me, because we will be going live very frequently, at least once a week, every Thursday at 4 p.m. But plenty of other times in between there, right? So you definitely want to tune in because I'm not gonna lie to y'all, YouTube gets the short end of the stick when it comes to my live streaming. Um, oh, thank you, Bay, for putting that down there. But yeah, y'all. So today we are discussing global motherhood and how healed wounds essentially can heal the world, right? Uh, so y'all, Honor did say give her a few moments. She's on a call. Did we want to just wait for her to pop in before we start the questions?
I don't know. It's kind of up to you. Mm-mm. Yeah, we can wait. Takasha said, sure, let's wait.
Okay. Yep, so we could just wait for her. In the meantime, let's I don't know. What have been on y'all minds lately? What's something y'all been thinking about lately?
I have been thinking about starting a podcast.
Okay.
But I guess I'm still working out my ideas of like, how I want it to be and all the other good stuff. Because I think my biggest fear of that is running out of topics to talk about. And, running out of guests and things like that. And I don't want to do that. So I guess that's something that I've been thinking about, for a while.
Okay. Uh, I would say that's a pretty rational fear. Because I feel like that's kind of what I'm running into right now on my podcast is dropping episodes further and further in between because of not having guests or not having topics that I want to do by myself, right? So that is a thing. But I still think it's worth it. Um, or you can even have like different segments where you like kind of what I'm doing now where there's like um you drop a podcast maybe once a week, but then you have other types of videos that you do as well. So that it's not solely reliant on the podcast.
Right. Yeah. So the podcast, I was thinking of it being its own segment anyway, because I still have classes to do. But I was thinking strictly for the podcast. I was trying to figure out which avenue I want to go. Like if I want to have it be more like a talk show or if I want it to be more like a radio show where I can have little segments of music inside as well. So I wasn't sure if I want to do that. I'm going back and forth about how I want it to be.
Okay. Okay, well, I think it's a good idea. Keep us posted. Um, we're here to
Yay.
support. I think the radio concept sounds cool to me.
Oh, thank you.
What about y'all, Callie, Durga?
Mm, um, Nothing really new happened on my end. I was just, I know earlier I was like thinking about all these conversations that we be having or people have on Bigo, just about so many different topics and stuff. And I personally just was just thinking like how surface it all is. Like it doesn't always, the conversations don't always tie in the whole capacity of like the differences of like different human beings, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Some people have like inflexible mindsets. Um, but there's so many different factors that go into like who each person becomes. And some of those things are not even their choice, you know? Just their experience or whatever. So,
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot to unpack there with like people being like shamed or like topics that are centered around shaming people's experiences because they don't fit within a certain like cookie cutter box, of this is how you should experience life, right? Um,
yeah.
I also think that I'm not gonna lie to you. I feel like a lot of these topics that people be engaging in, is mostly for social media because you'll have people that will get on this app and like argue until they're blue in the face about certain topics and things that don't apply to their reality, right? Um,
Right.
so I don't know. I think people
Yeah.
get on here just like solely for the sake of like blowing off steam and ranting or venting about things in an idealistic fashion.
Right.
Jose Flores says, "Am I
Therapy.
hiding?"
Yeah.
Yes, I am hiding. I am hiding, Jose. I don't want to be on camera today. Yep, definitely therapy.
Yeah.
I don't know, y'all. I think at this point, I think we could just go ahead and get started, and then whenever Honor pops up, we can let her like answer the questions from her perspective. Is that okay with y'all?
It's cool with me.
That works.
Okay. Can y'all still hear me when I exit like this?
Mm. Are you talking right now?
Yeah. Can y'all still hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. Okay. Um. Oh wait, hold on. Where the fuck? One moment. I have to retrieve the questions. Oh, there they are. Okay. So the first topic, global motherhood. The first question that we have is, what is motherhood to you? And we can kind of just go in a circle. What's up, Nino? Um, Callie, would you like to go first?
Sure. So, motherhood to me is about being able to basically extend your care out of yourself to another in a way that is unconditional, um, and is one where the powers are not equal. And so you pour yourself into creating a safe environment, creating a safe developmental space and whatnot for a child or another person or whoever, any person's basically safe, being safe space.
Okay. And Durga?
I would say to me, motherhood is a form of physical, mental, and spiritual and emotional sacrifice to help cultivate another being. Um, yeah, that's the best way I can put it.
Hmm. Okay. I like both of those explanations. And you, Akasha?
Yeah, I would say I completely agree with what's said already. just as far as, you know, when I think of motherhood, I think of just different attributes, you know, creator, protector, therapist, teacher, you know, just all the things that a mother is. So I don't necessarily relegate it to physical creation, but I feel in general that different people, you know, even if a woman decides not to have children or she's childless, like intentionally, she can still be a mother if she, you know, exhibits these type of qualities to, you know, people in her community, her family, friends, all these things, then she's also a mother as well.
Okay. Um, so I think motherhood to me is something that I've I've been growing into understanding in my own journey with motherhood. I think the ideal that I hold fast to over the years is that motherhood is essentially being of service and holding space for other beings when they're at their most vulnerable, right? Um like like for example, in the most traditional sense of motherhood, when we come into this world, you know, we can't breathe on our own, we can't eat on our own, we can't poop on our own. um our existence as a little embryo is completely and 100% reliant on the mother that we're inside of, right? um and she has to take that time to put aside her own personal desires and her own personal way of life, um to live in a way that allows that little tiny being to thrive, right? um and so I think that element of holding intimate, patient, nurturing space for another being is a big part of what motherhood is about to me. And I think it continues on in various different fashions. And we're gonna get into that a little bit later. In the sense of I don't think that motherhood is contingent upon carrying a child yourself, um, or having children of your own. But I do think that that is the most potent form of motherhood. Um, but yeah. Alrighty. Did anybody have anything else y'all want to chime in or like, you know, break down any further before we hop into the second question?
No, I liked every response so far.
Alrighty. Let me grab that second question for us. Okay. So, how do we implement motherhood to all children in the community in a way that's practical and respectful? So this is children outside of just your own personal children.
So, just being a mother, so far, I have definitely come to the determination that it's not something to be done alone. It's something that requires others, not even just a man, but a community, to help shape the child in the ways that would be the most healthy. And so, with that perspective, that children need a community. It's like if we want to create a village, raise a child type of space, everyone basically has to have that mindset. Every woman should be thinking of herself as a mother to any child in said community, as well as every man should be thinking of himself as a father figure, and seek to hold integrity, to respect that position that they're holding for other people's children, just by being in the space, by being present. And so that's a sense of like a kind of like sense of morality, of a morale that I think we should strive towards. to view ourselves as examples and influences over any children, let alone any person around us. You know, to set a good example.
Okay.
Right. I feel like I think in general, the part that you said, Callie, about having a village, raises a child mindset is key. And that's what I have been thinking about, because one thing that I did for my own personal journey was say, you know what, I don't want to be one of those people who kind of just, get in a relationship and then, do the do, and then boom, pops out a child, and then I just take care of it just because it's here now. I wanted to make sure I have more intention into, having children. So the very, very first thing I wanted to do was create a community, which is why I have a timeline on when I want to start having children. I want to make sure that I cultivate a community of people who are all elevated in consciousness, to the point where each person will look at every child in that village and have a sort of responsibility to how they come out, or how they are raised, or how they develop into adulthood. And I think that's a key part in, just raising children that aren't necessarily from your own body, right? Is looking at every child as a collective child. Like, you know what I mean? Like, or as you are the parent of the collective children. And, like, it's almost like seeing a child do something they're not supposed to, and going from, well, that's not my kid, I'm gonna mind my business, to, well, I care about this child, I care about the experiences they have, I care about how they develop, and having that ability to step in and say something to that child, to correct them, to call their parents. Like, you know what I mean? I think that transition is what it is that we need. And I think that it's important for the people, parents now, to come together and kind of decide on the parameters that we kind of all agree on how that looks. Like, we kind of have to have permission from each other. Like, oh, if you see my kid out, you have permission to stop them from doing what they're doing. If you see them smoking, if you see them, hanging out with the wrong crowd, I want you to be able to have the authority to be able to go over there and say, I don't want you hanging around these people because they're a bad influence. Like, so I think we have to set that tone and environment with each other as parents to collectively mother and father our children, even if they're not our own.
I agree. And I think, like, piggybacking off of that, like, I think in order to implement motherhood to all the children in the community in a way that's like practical and respectful, um, is by us like establishing who our communities are and creating a closed community where we all know each other. All the families in this community know each other. We all know each other's values, and we're on the same page in alignment with those values, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that, because there shouldn't even be a contradiction of like, well, I want my child to do things this way, and I'm trying to correct your child in a way that you're not. You see what I'm saying? Like, these things should be, we already understand and agree on these things before we even get to that point. And I think that will take care of a lot of what we have today, where you'll have people that, kind of like you were saying, they they want a village and they want people to look out for their kids in certain areas, but they are uncomfortable with people correcting their children, or kind of being like that parental role to their child. Um, so personally, like, if I'm just being just completely honest, I don't think that uh mothering all of the children in the community right now is practical. I think that we need to establish and close our communities first.
Right, exactly. And I think that's one of the things I'm actively doing. Like, like aligning myself with people who are on a particular frequency, so that way all of our children can grow up in that safe kind of environment where they don't have to worry. Like, you know what I mean? And if all the adults are on the same frequency, all the children can grow up a certain way, So it starts with us, really.
I agree. I definitely agree. Durga, did you have an answer for that one?
Can you just like repeat the question? Because I don't want to just respond to something.
Oh, yeah. So essentially, it was, how do we implement motherhood to all children in the community in a way that's practical and respectful?
Well, yeah, I agree with you. Then we would have to first establish an understanding amongst the parents involved to know that we all have the same morals and principles. Um, but as far as something that's blatantly like going to cause self harm to the child, I feel like we instinctively should be able to step up and look at all children as our children, in a sense, to at least be able to step in for certain situations based on that innate nurturing aspect that women just naturally should have. Um, Other than that, though, as far as specifics, there would have to be a collective understanding amongst the parents as far as how we want to raise our children. Um, I do think some of that's going to have to be isolation. You're going to have to isolate your children from other areas, knowing that other parents may have different morals and principles than you. So that your children aren't even being subjected to certain things and certain influences.
For sure.
Right, I agree.
Yep, that's why I put that emphasis on closed communities. Because it does not work in an open circuit. But I think like another way could also be just being mindful of the other children around you in the community. Like for example, like I know I'm homeschooling my daughter, and I plan on getting a curriculum, like purchasing a full curriculum for her, going into next year. And this may be pirating. I don't give a fuck. I personally plan on just making a bunch of copies of it so that I can just share it with other homeschooling mothers. Because I don't see why all of us should have to pay $300 for the same shit over and over, right?
Right.
So just little things like that. Like if you purchase books for your kids, you know, creating copies so other kids can have them, passing things down. If you see that your sister is having a baby and your baby's 3 now, okay, we don't need these bottles. We don't need this. We don't need that. Like just being conscious of how you can close, like bring everybody together rather than having the mentality of like, oh well, she gotta take care of her kid like I had to take care of mine. I had to go out there and get X, Y, and Z, so she gotta go out there and get X, Y, and Z. Um, I think that's a very individualistic mindset that keeps us trapped in the same cycle because everybody has to keep starting from scratch instead of one person starting, making progress, and then passing the baton so the next person can build upon that. We just keep scrapping everything and starting over from square one. To me, that's counterproductive.
Mm-hmm. And I keep being reminded of the situation that happened sort of recently. Not sure if you guys heard about it, but it was a little while ago where this young lady, she kind of was on live. I think we spoke about it before, but she was on live asking for help with her kids. And if she didn't get any help, she was going to take them to the fire department. And then she ended up kind of giving her kids over to CPS because she couldn't do it. She had, I think, 5 children. And I always think about that story because I feel like I feel for her. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like the community at large, like collectively, I think the opinions about her actions were mixed. Some felt that she was justified in giving her children up. Some felt like she should have never done that. And some people ridiculed her for what she did, but I think in general, no one should be in that position in the first place where they have to make that kind of decision because they're struggling so much to take care of their children. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there should be other people in those children's lives to where no mother is alone in doing that kind of job. Like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think it's very, very important that we take the time and energy to build that community if we're thinking about having children. And even if we have them already, just really work on building that community so that we're never in that space.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I could be wrong, but I think a lot of people don't want to be community based. They don't want to help people. So they kind of make excuses as to why they shouldn't have to help. Oh, well, that's her responsibility. She shouldn't have slept with this many dudes. She shouldn't have had this many kids. Blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah.
That's what
Long
I
story
heard a
short,
lot.
you
Like,
just don't want to help.
She just kept having kids. I'm like, and like, I don't see how that's a fault of hers. You know, like it's a part of, you know, people can take measures against having children. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, a lot of birth control is harmful to the body, mm-hmm. right? Unless you decided to just be celibate.
Which all these things are understandable. I just feel like, is you gonna help or not? Like, right, now that it's done, the kids are here, they need help. Are we gonna help or not? Like, people keep trying to make it about shit that's redundant because I think people don't want to be called to action. So they rather sit and like debate and talk back and forth about things that they know aren't action based, you know? Instead of us figuring out what we can do for these children, let's argue back and forth on if the children should exist or not. You know?
Right. I feel like that's really stupid. But we tend to do that as people.
Yeah. And at that point, it's not the child's fault. The child didn't ask to be here or ask to suffer. So we can question the mother's actions or we can assist the children. And that's where I think that comparison and, oh, well, I would have done it like this. And, you know, why did you do it like that? I feel like that's more coming from a judgmental place than an actual assisting place.
Right.
Having children is one of the most natural things that we can do as humans. So I don't really look at that as like, oh my God, you shouldn't have did it. What do you mean, be a human? I should have been.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's bound to happen, you know, so it's just interesting. It just really shows me like the level of consciousness our people on at the current state, which is why I advocate so much for just aligning with people on your frequency, because everybody can be a part of that village, you know, that raises the child.
Right. And I feel like at the end of the day, I come from people that just do both. You know, like you could talk your shit while you helping. You know, because that was something my granny would do. Like, girl, you know damn well you ain't had no business having no baby, huh? Come get these clothes. Like,
right, yeah. That's tough love, okay? You're not going to be sugar-coated. You're going to hear the truth, you know, because that's more so to help you make better decisions in the future. Like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But to still help you because it's not about you anymore, right? Yeah. It's about the kid. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yep. All right, y'all, I'm going to pull out the next question. Oh, this one right here. I think this is the question of the hour. Can you personally mother other adults?
I'm just gonna throw it out there, okay? I feel like we mother adults all the time, because at the end of the day, even as we're adults, we still have our inner child, and we still act upon that inner child, right? And that inner child shows up in different ways and fashions in our lives, depending on the situation or certain triggers, things like that. So I think in general, we tend to mother adults, especially, you know, if you are mentoring. That's a form of mothering another adult. People who take on, coaching positions, people who decide they're going to just take in someone who needs help. You tend to mother them. So in general, I think even in relationships, you tend to mother a person because when you're in relationships, you tend to reveal certain parts of yourselves. Just interacting with others, you start to reveal different parts, different depths within of who you are. And a lot of your inner child shows up, and that person can either mother you and nurture that inner child, or they can harm that inner child and cause more trauma. So it really just depends. I feel like in general, we're never at a space where we are completely, fully grown up, if that makes sense. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like we're continuously growing as we experience in this reality. So there's always a chance that we can either be mothered or harmed.
So I feel like this question is loaded, man. I feel like the fact that it's a personal question of like, can you though? Because we can say all day like the general concept, yeah, like people can, one could mother another adult, but like on the level of, am I in a space where I can mother another adult? I think no. Like if I was to really like reflect upon myself and be honest with myself on where my mental and emotional growth is, I don't think that I'm in a, because it takes a whole other level of like patience and selflessness and space holding for an adult. Because at least with a child, a lot of the times they haven't even developed their own independence from you. They're under your direct care, they're under your direct influence, in the sense of, my child is about to do something stupid, go sit down, you can't do that. Now when an adult, you have to respect that they're an autonomous, independent adult who can do whatever the fuck they want to do, and you have to accept that and still hold space for them within that, but also not get triggered in your emotions because of how they might respond, because this isn't a little 3-month-old baby anymore. This is a 200-pound adult who can, go upside your head if they don't like something that you said. You feel like there's so many other like aspects to it that make it way more of a tricky situation to navigate. And like you said, if it's not handled correctly, you could end up causing them more harm than good. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and disagree with that, Hadu. Like, I understand what you're saying, I understand where you're going with that, but I think realistically there is certainly a difference between a 3-month-old child and a 40-year-old man. Like, there are differences for sure. So and you have to respect those differences. It's not a bad difference to me, but they exist, right? So I don't know, just me personally, I don't think I'm at a space where I'm able to be like a good mother to another adult. In general.
Like I feel like there is like a difference, right? But where I feel there doesn't have to be so much of a difference is like, even with your child, you know that they're gonna do whatever they're gonna grow up and be whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really, their life is their own on some level. You know what I'm saying? So with our children, we definitely gonna have this energy of like really trying to rigorously point them in the right direction, because like I said earlier, it's like a difference in power dynamic. You know, we have more of the power in the relationship, so we have more responsibility. But I think that mothering can be, we can mother an adult, but I think that the mothering would be different, where we are respecting more of their autonomy because we understand that they have a greater understanding than a child about the world and things of that nature, you know? They're better able to, like, think properly, you know? And even when they aren't, like, again, like you said, it's like we're supposed to hold space. That's why I said for me what motherhood is. It's really just about holding space, like the child or dog, whoever, anybody who you're nurturing or guiding in on some level, they're going to do whatever, they're going to make whatever choice they want. It's not about us making the choices for our children. It's like about us allowing them to be able to understand why the choice is what it is, if that makes sense. Like why they're making the choices they're making. And even with our kids, they're going to have to fall and see their own mistake, you know? I feel like it is a part of a woman's intuition to be able to, like, at a heightened level, and power at a heightened level, to allow motherfuckers to do whatever they want to do, knowing they're going to come back. Because it's like, they're going to come back either to you personally, or in their mind go back and be like, oh, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like that too is a part of, like, the motherhood process, like being able to be calm, like, even when it's like, fuck, they're gonna walk off the cliff or whatever the case is. Like, you do everything that you can to protect, but then when it's time for them to learn the lesson on their own, you learn the lesson, and you're a safe space regardless, you know?
Yeah, I have a question, right? You guys don't feel that the role that you play for the human beings that you create is also the very same role that you play for the men in your life?
Wait, you're saying, do we feel like we're playing the same role for our children as our man?
Yes.
I think it really
I do
depends.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Huh?
I said I do sometimes.
To me, I think it
the
depends.
way I handle it is different.
Yeah, like it's not as
You think it's
consistent
different?
as like once you give birth to a child, there's like a consistent, permanent state of motherhood that you have to be in with that being, versus an adult who they've already lived 20 years, 30 years, whatever, before they even met you. And you are coming in and you're playing a certain type of role, but there's no breaks in it. There's no gaps in it. You know, when you have your child, like I don't know if I'm making any sense with that. Like your child, you're a mother to that child until you take your last breath. Whereas with a man or a partner, I may be your mother in this moment, but we're lovers in this moment. You know, and in this, like, there's more of a fluctuation to me.
Okay, I can see what you're saying. I'm just, because I've been listening to you guys speak about mothering and guidance and having patience and protecting them from themselves and all that, and I feel like you're describing wifehood. Like, I don't know if everyone's experience with men has been the same as or similar to mine's, but I feel like I have mothered every man I've been with, if that makes sense. So one thing I've noticed with myself in my own personal journey is that when I was young, like 19, 20, I wanted to have a kid so bad, right? But as years have passed, I'm more like, oh, I could wait, because I feel like my patience has gotten thinner since then, because I've done a lot of mothering to grown men. And I feel like it's a lot harder because they come to you with all the years of whatever they think they know. So they're more rebellious than anything. And it's always a sense of resistance because they don't respect what women say in general, just because of society, and how patriarchal they make everybody. So in general, they don't really respect the things that you say, or they're less inclined to listen to you because they think they know it all. and they think that they're more logical than you and blah, 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 right? But I feel like in general, you still play the very same role. Like, just being able to be like, okay, these people are not your friends. Don't be over there. If you go down this route, you'll go to jail. If you do this, like, stay with me and I'll guide you. Like, so in general, I feel like you are teaching someone who has been taught incorrectly, and you're trying to erase all of the things that they shouldn't know. So it's actually more difficult. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I haven't had children yet, and I feel like I can't wait for that time. But I feel like when I do have that time, I would possibly enjoy it better because I won't have to like go behind any other programming to try and like fix it.
Right. Which is kind of what you're
But I
doing
feel
with
like
adults.
yes, with adults, I feel like it's hard, but I feel like in general, as a wife, that is a mother role to a grown man.
For
Like they
sure.
go
Like I
from their
mean,
mothers to their wives and expect to be mothered in general.
like I think it's more complex. It's more complex of a role than it
Mm-hmm.
is with a child, you know? Um that the mothering is there for sure. And some men require more mothering than others.
Yes,
Absolutely.
very true. Yes.
But there are things that like ends up creating a difference in the way that you navigate the situation, right? And even what is expected of them is different than what you would expect of a child. Um, because you're kind of taking, as a mother, no matter how stressed you are, no matter how sad you are, no matter what you're going through, you have to be the authority and the protector and the nurturer of that child, right? Whereas with your partner, y'all can kind of switch roles at times. You may be recovering from childbirth and he can go cook for you. He can do, you know, you may be having a hard time understanding something and he can make the decision or take the lead in a situation so that it can be navigated. You can't kind of share responsibility in that way with your child, right? Um
Mm-hmm.
so that's all I would say is I think that for me it's more moment by moment with a partner
Mm-hmm.
than it is with an actual baby.
Okay.
I could be wrong. Durga, what you think? I haven't heard you say nothing.
Um, I do feel like I've been like a mother. I feel like I've been like a mother, or I felt like a mothering energy or figure in my relationships as well with men. And I think on some of my experiences with that have been, I feel, from a toxic perspective, and others not so much. I say that because it's like seeing the potential, right? And constantly being able to like create a safe space for them to grow. But then that's the work they have to do, right? Right. It's not just happening because I'm holding space, you know? But then I've also been in a relationship where it's like, I feel like that mothering space is respected. Like, I'm come to for advice. I'm looked at like, I can provide that type of energy, that space. They come for the space, right, for the correction or the conversation or whatever the case is. And so I feel like that's just a natural part of me being in a relationship, like how I tend to relate with the men that I'm with. I want to learn from them, but I want to be able to teach them as well or assist them as well. Like, right. So, but that's why, in the beginning too, I did say like, it's not just women I feel that can tune into this kind of like motherhood role, for others in general. But men I feel can tune into a fatherhood role for people around them as well. Um, Absolutely.
I think we see that a lot of times when we see certain people creating programs for young kids in a community to kind of just take on, like, they see a problem and they're just active in creating a solution for it and not caring about whether the kid is theirs or not, like, just taking care of the community. And I think that's the quality of fatherhood that we see in men, and that's what I kind of want to see more of.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a different kind of responsibility when you put yourself into the role of parent, or even with just friends. I feel like even to my friends, sometimes I feel like I'm taking on a mother role, not literally their birth mother. You know what I'm saying? Like the same thing with the relationship, not literally their birth mother. But in terms of just holding space, being a guide, or just being present and giving nurturing, encouraging, safe energy.
Yeah, nurturing the inner child.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's why I was saying I feel like in general we mother adults all the time, um, just in different situations, and at different times. Um, it may not be as consistent as a physical child, but yeah, I think we do it all the time without even knowing. It's just within our nature to care for others. Like when you have a natural, when you're naturally compassionate and empathetic to others, you naturally take on things, to care for others without even realizing it.
Mm-hmm. Durga, you think you can mother another adult?
Um, I think I have. I've mothered my father in his last years, in a sense. Um, I have mothered exes before, but some kids gonna be defiant. So I think I can do it.
Put them niggas up for
I think
adoption.
I can do it. Hell yeah. I had to drop some of them off at the fire station, you know what I'm saying? And just kind of keep it pushing. But
Yeah.
I don't think it was me. It was nothing wrong with my parents. And I just think some kids want to do what they want to do. But I definitely think I can play that role. And I've done it very well to my own. I met my own expectations. I'll put it like that, as far as being able to mother another adult. And I do think it's doable, and I think some of it is needed. I don't think a lot of people actually had parents of their own. Even their own biological parents weren't really parenting them. So I think some adults really need and miss that nurturing and that discipline and that structure that a mother and father can bring. Mm-hmm. So I don't really see anything wrong with it, and I definitely think that I can do it. It's just all about are people receiving of that.
I just feel like I can't do that
I
shit
hate when
consistently,
people
man.
come back and be like, "You were right." They do that to me all the time.
Yes. Or they don't want to say that you was right, so they'll say everything around that. Like, yeah, Uh-huh.
You
I
have a
tried it a
great
different way.
from you, like after you done all this shit, like.
Yeah, I've actually had exes come back and like give me like a sincere apology, like years later, mind you, years later. And they'll just be like, you know what? Um, you know, so at least my seed was planted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just know I can't do that shit on a consistent basis with an adult. I'm sorry. I can give you some moments, right? I can hold space for you. Mm-hmm. I can hold space for you. That's something I can do consistently. But the type of mothering that I show to my child, like I can't give that to another adult consistently. And I know that might sound like duh, but it's really adults out here that really need that shit. and want that shit and
Yes.
expect that shit out of their wife or their partner.
They do.
And nigga, fuck no. Like
I blame the patriarchy for that expectation, because they do that on purpose. You know that, right? The whole, you leave your mother and father and cleave to your wife, and then the wife is supposed to do everything for you. Like, that's why men are just now coming into the idea that they should know how to cook and wash their own clothes, and because they're still very dependent on the duties of their mother, and then the wife is just supposed to, take the baton and kind of finish off what his mother was doing, like my man now, he still goes to his mother's house for dinner because he likes the way she cooks. So he still goes over there. So, I appreciate that though, but
yeah, I think for me it's just like,
I think the society just cripples men in general.
We be having shit to do. That's the thing. Like, that made sense in an era where, as a woman, all you had to do was cook and clean and take care of kids. Like, that's all you did. There were no businesses. There were no education. You couldn't even get a higher education. There was no chasing of your own goals and ambitions. Anything. Nigga, I got several things to do today. So I can cook this meal for you. And you can warm up these leftovers. But thinking that I'm about to constantly be your living nanny and, mother and maid and personal chef, no, that's insane. That's actually insane.
Right. Right, yeah.
It does, but we don't live in a traditional world anymore. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. People got things that need to be done.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's how I feel about that. That's how I feel about that. Prime, you feel like you could?
That's just the physical part.
I want to ask Prime. You feel like you could father another adult? Be a father to another adult, male or female?
I don't think in a romantic type, that type of relationship, I don't feel like it should be one person giving that kind of energy. Like, the man should be fathering the wife in a certain sense, and the woman should be mothering the husband in a certain sense. And they know when to, like, hop into the role of child or parent. Like, or whatever the case is. It's literally just course correction. It's not even just about, like, cooking for them, cleaning for them, doing all this stuff. It's not even just that's really just, like, not even
that's just the physical part.
But even in that aspect, I feel like men should cook for their wives, supply their wife with food, and give her massages and cater to her as well. Those are the other things. I've been in relationships where it's, like, mutual like that. Like, it's not like I have to cook every single time. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Like, it's just about playing each role and knowing when to, like, they talk about in men and women relationships about the woman submitting, but it's about both people knowing when to submit to the relationship, what they want out of the relationship, the goal of the relationship. Like, why are we doing this, or what did we find in each other that was just such a, like, inspiring thing that was like, this inspired us to come together and feel like we're going to work together in life and all that, and so a mature woman and a mature man.
I agree. I did want to hear Prime. I was interested to hear your perspective on if you think you could father another adult.
Yeah, for me, it just all depends on if that adult wants to actually be fathered. Because I've tried it in the past, and a lot of people don't listen. So I ain't doing that no more. I don't have the patience to tell somebody something like, hey, look, don't cross that bridge. It's going to go out if you try to cross it. And then I see them crash through the bridge, and then they climb back up the side of the mountain and be like, hey, you know what, you was right. I was like, motherfucker, I just told you that. Like, why you even go that way? I told you not to go that way. So, I don't have the patience anymore. You know what I'm saying? And one more thing is the way that I grew up. I learned how to cook and clean and all that stuff at a young age because both of my parents, they worked. My mom worked that night. My stepdad worked 2 jobs. So I had to learn how to cook and clean for my younger sister. I was actually an adult at 13 because I was caring for my younger sister and brother. So, as I got older, it affected my marriage. Now on the negative side, I wouldn't call it negative, but on the unknowing side, I didn't know about credit. I didn't know how to actually like value shop. You know what I'm saying? And my wife taught me those things. You feel what I'm saying? But she didn't know how to cook and clean. So it was kind of like we kind of fed off each other, I guess, in a sense. You know what I'm saying? But as time went on, it's like she didn't want to change her ways, and I didn't change my ways. So we eventually split up. So it's a lot of things that come into play when it comes to certain relationships because nobody grows up completely perfect. There's gonna always be some type of drawbacks when it comes to relationships, but if you're willing to see those people through those things, then it'll work. You know what I'm saying? One of the things that somebody told me in the beginning of my marriage was, I gotta learn to solve problems together. And we gotta away from that and started being individuals again. And that's what ultimately caused the divorce. That's all I have to say. So when you come into situations, like I said yesterday, you got to know your personnel. You got to know who you're dealing with. That's the biggest thing. You got to know what makes that person tick. What that person like and dislike, and if you're able to deal with it and move forward. Because if you're not, later on in the relationship, it's gonna be a problem. That's it. I'm gonna jump back down, y'all. I wanna mess up the sister circle.
No, you ain't messing it up. We appreciate you for chiming in. I agree with that. I think that's kind of what we was. That's pretty much like it seems like we're kind of all coming to the same conclusion of like having when it comes to another an adult, it has to be a wax and wane, a give and take. You can't expect complete parentage from your partner forever, right? Y'all have to kind of know how to teach each other and guide each other and listen to each other in different areas, right? So, um, so the last question was, let me pull it up. Mm. Do you think women are powerful enough to change the world, right? And just to give you a little bit of context, when we were writing this question, it was in the context of womb healing, right? So that the notion that through healing our wombs in our womb spaces, that we naturally heal and affect the things that come from the womb, right? Um, do you think that that is enough to make a significant change in the world, right? And I'm gonna let y'all answer first.
I'm gonna say absolutely. Um, let's say hypothetically all women was able to telepathically speak to each other and get an understanding as far as how we want to raise the children, we could literally change the world in one generation.
Facts.
And I think with knowing the direction and how much power we already have, I feel like we're already doing it. We're just being nudged in a direction that's not conducive to us. So we're raising children that are not conducive to how we would like society to be. But I think we already have the power. We're just not utilizing it. And when I say we, I mean all women collectively, not us on this panel. But absolutely, I think it could change the world. Damn near overnight.
Damn near, damn near. I think me growing up with, like my mother being someone who, she just like on a most simple level, just in one area, she had issues with substance abuse, right? And her issues with substance abuse while she was carrying me and my siblings manifested in the form of various mental disorders, behavioral issues, all kinds of shit that directly impacted our lives for the worse. So I always think to myself, like, even if everything remained the same, even if we didn't have relationships with our father, even if we did continue to grow up in poverty, if she had simply respected her womb space when she was carrying her children, so many things would have been totally different in our lives, right? Um so to me, I think that's a tremendous amount of power to be able to literally affect how someone's brain will develop, how someone's personality will develop, how their body will develop. Even just on that one level is extremely powerful to me. So then when you start taking in the breastfeeding, and then we start looking at the fact that, statistically, children are most influenced by their mother during their early childhood developmental stages. So this is the time in their life when they're learning their morals, their principles, right from wrong, how they're going to interact with other people in the world. Most people spend that time very close to their mother. Uh, to me, I think that's very influential in a woman. I think that that's where most generational curses come from, is the woman passing down her trauma and her problems during those moments, right? So I think as women, just us healing ourselves so that we're not passing these things down to our children, that alone could tremendously change the world.
I completely agree. That was one thing I was going to mention earlier. I think we are coming from a space where we forgot who we were as a people. Like, just not knowing, not having any self identity, not knowing who we are. Right. But now I feel like things have changed, that there has been a shift, whereas the divine feminine is coming into understanding who she is on a collective scale. So as we grow and elevate as women, then we'll start to see the ripple effect in the generations following us. And I think once we realize that each human being on this planet is an extension of who we are, then we kind of make better decisions, and we place certain intentions on how we move, how we take care of our bodies, and how we take care of our children, and how we relate with others. Like, you know what I mean? Once we start looking at everyone as an extension of ourselves, because they are, like, our children are our blood, our bone, our skin, literally. So, we make them, and how they grow is based off of the environment that they're growing up in. So it's really all about how we view ourselves. Once we view ourselves as the collective mother, we start making better intentions. So yes, I agree with the both of you.
Yeah, so I also agree with what everyone said. As I said before, I just feel like mother, or that whole energy, is just sacred spaces. It's the holding of spaces. And I certainly believe that if we were to be able to heal spaces, the world, nature, like our bodies, our minds, our hearts, our womb space, and all of that, we could definitely change a lot. Our environment affects a lot of how things develop. So, all hail the womb,
Oh, hell, the magic conch.
Yeah, so we're all in agreement that we are the cause and we have power over the effect. So,
And with that comes accountability. That's another live I want to
Very
talk about.
much.
But we do have to do that. We do have an accountability live to do.
Yes.
I'm gonna be dropping the schedule for everyone's viewing pleasure. But
Great.
that's important there, man. Like, cause we can't keep doing
Mm-hmm.
the men should do this and men should do that and men.
Yeah, we
Unfortunately,
said
the ball is in our park, man. It's in our park. Even if you have sex with the shittiest nigga on the face of the planet, believe me, I did it. Like, I truly believe that I fucked Thanos, y'all.
Oh
Like,
my
that's a side
goodness.
mission.
Stop it.
But I'm like
Stop it. Not Thanos.
Thanos, actual Thanos.
Screaming.
Like, that's a conversation for another day. Even if you procreate with the
I'm
most
making a bath.
shittiest nigga in the world, that baby is inside of you. That nigga can go snort crack, well, smoke crack, do coke, jump off a cliff. He can go do whatever he want to do. It's not going to affect that child. You have to take care of that baby. You have to bring it and build it and cultivate it and bring it forth into this reality. You know? So the ball is always in your court. And that's how I feel.
Yeah, and I think we didn't know that for many centuries. Like, you know what I mean? I think the conditioning has told us that we are nothing but a supportive role in the play of everything. Like, you know what I mean? And I think as we have awakened, we start to understand the role that we do play is a lot more important. So we have to take on more responsibility. Once we realize that things are the way they are because we've been asleep for so long. So, yeah.
Can't be helpless, y'all. Can't be helpless. We gotta bond
Yeah.
together. If you feeling weak, that's what womb is for. That's what the sisterhood is for. That's what we come together and hold space for each other and pour into each other for. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sisterhood is our strength.
That's a whole other topic right there.
Yeah, that is the next topic, actually, sisterhood.
Oh, yeah.
I do feel like unity is, in my mind, my ultimate goal. Because I feel like men and women, when we are coming to our divine perspective, our divine mission, right, which is what we are speaking about, what we create, what we produce, what we nurture life into being, how we do that, how we structure spaces and whatnot. If men and women can get on board with that and let that be the focus of the relations on some level, not saying we can't be in our lovey-dovey thing, but the most important thing is, what are you producing? What are you holding down? You know what I'm saying? What is the relationship being a pillar for, in the community, in one's own lineage, and just worldwide for the world? I feel like that's when we will just be able to see our greatest power. When we can understand that partnership, team.
I agree.
Oh, yeah.
I do agree. It is definitely still a team. Partnership is a major part of it. I think that's another conversation that we should have, right? But yeah, man. I just think, like, I believe that the womb is the start. It's the starting point. And if you fuck that start up, it's hard to come back from that. Um, it is definitely hard. It's counterproductive actually to try to come back from that. Um, that's kind of what I was hinting at earlier. Is that I think I turned out pretty good, if I do say so myself, from where I started. But it took a lot. It took a lot of spinning my wheels and bumping my head and running into shit and going through things that I did not have to go through. And to me, I think that that's counterproductive. We can't keep, like I said, we can't keep starting from scratch. We can't keep starting from detrimental chaotic, destructive energy and then having to forge our way through the fire, right? That shit ain't doing nothing for us. Like, we deserve to have healthy, loving, nourishing communities that set our children up for success and set them up to prosper, right? Our children should not be born into the world having to fight their way out of bullshit. You know, that's just how I feel. So.
I agree. That just goes back to what you were saying earlier, just about we have to be able to pass the baton, and what we learn, pass it on to the next. That way we can start from a proper place. But I think just getting rid of that mentality of individualism will help cure that, right? If we start to look at each other as extensions of ourselves, then we'll start to act in accordance with that and being able to unify in a better way and be the village that we need, be the strength that each other needs, so we're not everybody just in the world just winging it, through trial and error. That's horrible.
Yeah, extremely terrible. This shit is not turning out good. And like, I guess people, like, their mentality, we was talking to a dude like this like a week ago, I think, where the mentality was kind of like, oh, these things are necessary for growth. No, it's not, bro. That is some struggle mentality that has been passed down from generation to generation. That mentality within itself is a generational curse to me. That we have to go through the utmost struggle in negativity, in bullshit, in order to build character. Like, your child don't need to grow through crack, bro. Like, they don't need that. I promise you. Like, please don't piss me off. Like, so I just feel like that shit, it becomes excuses to me of like, I don't want to be held accountable for changing my environment. So I'd rather just say, oh, well, this is just how the world is, Yeah, my kid going through bullshit, but that's gonna build their character. Like, no. Get out of here, please. But on that note, y'all, I do have to go. Would y'all like me to pass the live to somebody?
I'm done with my hours. I'm about to I just dropped my baby off, so I'm about to take a bath and relax.
Period. Carefree. Well, baby free.
Right. I needed a break.
Glad to hear that for you.
I think this was a great discussion, and always appreciate everyone's perspectives. Yeah, I think we hit a lot of different angles in womb healing and global motherhood today. So I love it.
Me too.
Me too.
Yeah, y'all. Oh, and follow me on YouTube at Angel's Whisper. Hold on. Angel's Whisper. Okay. Why the fuck am I typing so slow? Okay, there you go. Where, I have a podcast. We get into all kinds of different topics. Pretty much everyone on here has been on my podcast before, other than Durga. We have to set that up. So definitely go slide over there and check it out. Other than that, I'm gonna hop off of here. If nobody wants to take the live.
No, we're good.
Alrighty. Well, Monet, y'all.
Monet, much love.